Steve Rogers had a long journey to his happy ending, which is turning out not to be the end for him after all.
Before Steve Rogers was even born, his father, Joseph, was killed in action in World War I. Steve was born in 1918, on July 4th no less. By the time he was 5, his mother Sarah had contracted terminal tuberculosis.
Steve was afflicted by numerous maladies of his own, including asthma and scarlet fever. The skinny kid was often confronted by bullies growing up in New York City. When he was 12, some bullies on 10th Avenue tried to force Steve to pay a toll to cross the street. Bucky Barnes stepped in to help fight them off, and he and Steve had an instant bond. They went on a lot of adventures together.
You remember that time we had to ride back from Rockaway Beach in the back of that freezer truck?
Was that the time we used our train money to buy hot dogs?
Steve's mother finally died of her TB when he was 18. Bucky told Steve he was welcome to stay with him, but Steve proudly declined, saying he could get by on his own. But Bucky let Steve know someone was always there for him.
I'm with you to the end of the line, pal.
After hearing about the attack on Pearl Harbor, Steve repeatedly attempts to enlist in the Army, but he's declared unfit each time because of his health conditions. Steve goes to a movie and gets into an argument with a man who's talking during a newsreel. They take it outside, and the guy gives Steve a beating.
You just don't know when to give up, do you?
I can do this all day.
Once again, Bucky, who was able to enlist, steps in to save Steve from the bully. Bucky takes Steve to the 1943 Stark Expo, a showcase of futuristic technologies. Steve sneaks away from Bucky and their dates to go to an Army recruitment center and try to enlist again. Bucky catches him and tells Steve he's just going to get rejected again. Steve says other men are sacrificing their lives, and he should be doing the same. It just so happens that Dr. Abraham Erskine overhears their argument, so he steps in during Steve's medical exam. Erskine tells Steve he knows about his multiple attempts to enlist and asks point blank if Steve wants to kill Nazis.
I don't want to kill anyone. I don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from.
Erskine finally approves Steve's enlistment application, and Steve goes to basic training, where he first encounters British Special Agent Peggy Carter. Steve struggles with the physical challenges, which is made even worse by other recruits sabotaging him, but his resourcefulness and quick thinking make him stand out. Steve ultimately proves his bravery to his commanding officer, Chester Phillips, by instantly jumping on a dummy grenade to protect his fellow recruits. After that, Steve learns why he's really there. Erskine is going to test his super soldier serum on him, a Nazi defector. Erskine had previously tested the previous version of the serum on German soldier Johann Schmidt, creating the Red Skull. Schmidt is a Nazi, but also a member of the secret society Hydra. On the way to the experiment, Steve and Peggy bond over things they can't change about themselves. Steve also muses about dancing with a woman someday.
Figured I'd wait.
For what?
Right partner.
Steve is placed inside a pod and given the serum, emerging taller, far more muscular, and, well, irresistible for Peggy. There's no time to celebrate, though. A spy working for the Red Skull assassinates Erskine and steals the last remaining vial of the serum. With his newfound athletic ability, Steve gives chase and captures the man, but the spy takes a hidden cyanide pill and dies before Steve can question him. Erskine's death means Steve's chief advocate is gone. Despite his character and now proven heroism, Phillips still doesn't think Steve is right for the front lines. So instead, Steve is given the job of serving as Captain America, essentially a mascot. He performs in USO shows to promote war bonds. The shows make him a celebrity, even though Steve would much rather be in the fight overseas. He even stars in a movie. Steve finally does make it overseas as part of a USO tour to Italy. After a show that goes poorly, Steve learns that Bucky's unit has been all but wiped out in combat. Steve gathers equipment, including his prop shield, and goes on a rogue solo rescue mission into Austria for the survivors. Steve locates a group of prisoners and frees them, but Bucky isn't with them.
Steve eventually does find Bucky, who apparently has been experimented on by Arnim Zola, a Hydra scientist.
Steve and Bucky encounter the Red Skull, who has set the facility to self-destruct. Captain America and the Red Skull fight for a bit before the latter escapes. Bucky and Cap manage to find a way out, and Steve returns to base with the rescued soldiers. Cap's daring rescue becomes worldwide news. Steve is finally given the go-ahead to recruit a team to go attack other Hydra bases. He chooses a group of the soldiers he saved, Bucky included, who become known as the Howling Commandos. Steve also meets with industrialist Howard Stark, who builds Cap a new shield made of near-indestructible vibranium. Steve also gets a still colorful but more functional version of his Captain America uniform. Steve leads dozens of successful missions to destroy Hydra bases. The Commandos eventually capture
capture Arnim Zola, but in the process, Bucky falls off a train, appearing to die. Steve tries to get drunk to mourn his best friend, but can't because of the super soldier serum. After learning about a Hydra plan to attack the United States directly, Steve vows to personally take down the Red Skull in Bucky's memory. Cap and the Howling Commandos try to infiltrate Hydra headquarters, but Steve gets taken prisoner. As the Red Skull interrogates him, the Howling Commandos crash in and create a distraction. The Red Skull runs, and Cap pursues him all the way to Skull's plane. The Red Skull takes off on the plane, hoping to carry out his attack on the U.S. Chester Phillips and Peggy Carter arrive in Red Skull's car, enabling Cap to catch up. Just before jumping on the plane, Steve and Peggy finally share a kiss.
I'm not kissing you.
Steve fights his way through the plane to the Red Skull, who gets the jump on him. In their fight, Steve hits the cradle for the Tesseract, a powerful relic the Red Skull stole with his shield. Unbeknownst to both of them, the Tesseract is the Space Stone, one of the 6 Infinity Stones. Desperate to save his treasure, Red Skull grabs the Tesseract and appears to die, though he's really sent to the planet Vormir. Cap finds the plane's controls badly damaged. The only way he can prevent the Red Skull's planned attack is to crash it into the Arctic. He tells Peggy this over the radio.
You're gonna need a rain check on that dance.
Miraculously, Steve survives the crash, but he spends 66 years frozen in ice. Over that time, the believed dead Cap becomes revered as a legendary war hero. Peggy gets married to an unnamed soldier who Steve once saved. They have a son and daughter.
You gonna be okay?
Yeah, I had a date.
Steve struggles to find his place in this far future. Most of his friends are dead. Peggy is alive, but he hesitates to contact her. Ultimately, Nick Fury gives Cap a purpose, inviting him to join the Avengers and stop the Asgardian Loki, who has stolen the Tesseract. Steve gets the lowdown on his fellow Avengers from S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Phil Coulson, one of Captain America's biggest fans. Cap arrives on the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier and is wowed by its technology. He has some friction with his old buddy Howard Stark's son, Tony. Steve also finds that he doesn't entirely get what everyone's talking about.
I understood that reference.
Cap's still a great leader, though, so he successfully leads a mission to capture Loki in Germany. Loki's brother Thor attacks the Quinjet, seeking to take Loki back to Asgard, but Cap successfully convinces Thor they should work together. Bringing Loki and his scepter, which contains the Mind Stone, only makes the helicarrier more of a pressure cooker. Cap finds that Nick Fury has been hiding Hydra technology, which he's been studying to make new weapons to ward off new threats, like the Asgardians. Everyone starts arguing, but they stop when the helicarrier is attacked by a mind-controlled Hawkeye. Steve and Tony work together to stabilize the damaged helicarrier. Soon after, Steve learns that Loki has escaped and killed Coulson. His death unifies the team. In an effort to conquer Earth, Loki and his army of alien Chitauri mount an attack on New York City. Cap serves as the Avengers' field leader in the battle against them, issuing orders and saving civilians. Ultimately, the group works together to defeat Loki and wipe out the Chitauri. After the team has some celebratory shawarma, Cap leaves on his motorcycle to find his next mission. At some point, he harkens back to his USO days by filming some educational videos.
Today, my good friend, your gym teacher, will be conducting the Captain America Fitness Challenge.
Thank you, Captain.
Despite their disagreements about Fury's Hydra technology, Steve becomes a full-time S.H.I.E.L.D. agent under his command. Steve has also been working on getting himself up to speed on culture. One morning on a run, he meets Air Force veteran Sam Wilson.
On your left.
On my left. Got it.
And reveals his list of cultural touchstones to catch up on. Steve and Black Widow go on a mission to retake a hijacked S.H.I.E.L.D. ship, the Lemurian Star. With the help of S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Brock Rumlow, Cap saves the hostages and subdues the hijackers' leader, George Batroc. Steve also learns that Black Widow was given orders he didn't know about to recover data. An angered Steve confronts Nick Fury about keeping things from him, so Fury reveals S.H.I.E.L.D.'s plans for Project Insight, which will take down global security threats before they even happen. Steve thinks the plans go too far. Once again confronted by a world that seems to have passed him by, Steve goes to the Smithsonian Institution, where he sees tributes to himself, Bucky, and the Howling Commandos. He also watches an interview with Peggy Carter.
Even after he died, Steve was still changing my life.
This finally gets Steve to go visit the love of his youth, who is now over 90 years old and living in a retirement home. As he talks to her about how the world has changed, she reveals she has forgotten most of the conversation before it's even over. She has Alzheimer's. Steve does his best to comfort her.
Well, I couldn't leave my best girl. Not when she owes me a dance.
Steve goes to see Sam Wilson, who is leading a support group for veterans.
Steve and Sam bond over their similar experiences despite being from different eras. Steve then returns to his apartment only to encounter a severely injured Nick Fury. Fury reveals that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been compromised, then gets shot through the wall several times. As he dies, Fury gives Steve a USB drive of data from the Lemurian star and tells him not to trust anyone. Just then, a woman who had been posing as Steve's neighbor reveals herself as Agent 13, who had been secretly keeping an eye on him. She's Peggy Carter's great-niece, Sharon Carter. Steve chases down Fury's assassin. He throws his shield at the masked figure, but he catches it with a cybernetic arm and throws it back. The assassin gets away. Steve meets Black Widow at the hospital, where Fury is pronounced dead. Rogers gets called to the Triskelion S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters. He's questioned by Alexander Pierce, who reveals that Fury himself was behind the hijacking of the Lemurian star. Steve doesn't reveal anything Fury told him, remembering his advice to not trust anyone. On his way out, Steve is attacked by Brock Rumlow and multiple other agents in the elevator. He fights them all off and escapes the building.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
With S.H.I.E.L.D. on his tail, Steve regroups with Black Widow and goes into hiding. Black Widow confesses that she knows who killed Fury, the Winter Soldier, a legendary assassin. The two go to an Apple store and review the USB drive, which leads them to Camp Lehigh, where Steve did his basic training. They steal a car and drive there. Steve and Black Widow find a bunker where a computer containing the consciousness of Arnim Zola greets them. Zola explains that he has been rebuilding Hydra from within S.H.I.E.L.D., and the group has been responsible for multiple deaths of S.H.I.E.L.D. leaders, including Howard Stark. Steve deduces that the Winter Soldier carried out that assassination. Pierce sends a missile to destroy the bunker. Steve and Black Widow escape just in the nick of time. With few other options, Cap and Black Widow go to Sam Wilson's house. They confer about what to do next. Steve goes to interrogate S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Jasper Sitwell, who reveals that Project Insight is a way to eliminate Hydra's enemies. He takes Sitwell into custody, and they're soon attacked by the Winter Soldier. In the fight, the Winter Soldier's mask comes off, and Steve learns that he is Bucky Barnes, somehow alive.
Bucky?
Who the hell is Bucky?
A shocked Steve, along with Black Widow and Sam, get arrested by Hydra agents, but they're rescued by Maria Hill, who is hiding among them. She takes them all to a secret facility where Fury reveals he is not dead after all. They concoct a plan to stop Project Insight, and Steve insists on bringing down S.H.I.E.L.D., which has become too corrupt to save. Steve, Sam, and Maria infiltrate the Triskelion and inform the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents within about Hydra's infiltration of their organization. In the chaos that creates, the three successfully stop Project Insight by reprogramming the helicarriers to attack each other instead of their targets. Cap then encounters the Winter Soldier aboard a helicarrier, and they fight as it crashes into the Triskelion. The Winter Soldier gets trapped under some debris, and Steve saves him. Yet a still brainwashed Bucky keeps fighting. Steve refuses to fight back, instead trying to remind Bucky of their friendship. Finally, Steve repeats something Bucky told him decades earlier.
Because I'm with you to the end of the line.
And Bucky snaps out of it. A falling piece of debris sends Cap tumbling into the Potomac River. Bucky saves him, but doesn't stick around to reminisce. Upon hearing the news that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been disbanded, Steve and Sam begin a search for Bucky. Steve also rejoins the Avengers to take down Hydra bases throughout the world. Upon capture of the last one, where Loki's scepter is being kept, the Avengers celebrate with a party. As it winds down, everyone tries and fails to lift Thor's hammer. Only Steve even slightly budges it. The party gets interrupted by Ultron, an AI created with the help of the scepter by Tony Stark and Bruce Banner. Ultron overtakes some Iron Legion drones to attack the Avengers. The group manages to destroy the drones and Ultron's robotic body, but his consciousness escapes. In the aftermath, Steve claims Tony is behaving a bit like S.H.I.E.L.D. by creating Ultron to head off global threats, but he also insists the Avengers stay together. The Avengers track Ultron to Johannesburg and attempt to reason with him, but get insults instead.
Captain America, God's righteous man, pretending you could live without a war.
That leads to a fight where Cap is attacked by both Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch, the latter of which shows him a vision of Peggy Carter in a ballroom. It's then empty when he turns around. The Avengers retreat to Hawkeye's rural home. With a pep talk from Nick Fury, the Avengers go to Seoul, where Ultron is creating another android powered by the Mind Stone. Cap fights Ultron long enough for the other Avengers to recover the android body, but Ultron does capture Black Widow. Steve also recruits Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, who have ended their allegiance to Ultron as Avengers. The Avengers then fight amongst themselves about whether they should bring this new being to life. Thor arrives from a sabbatical and uses lightning to birth the new, friendly android, the Vision. The team then travels to the European nation of Sokovia, where Ultron is planning to drop the entire city of Novigrad from high in the sky down to Earth, killing billions. Cap lays out a plan to save innocent civilians, rescue Black Widow, and defeat Ultron. Cap oversees the team's efforts, and they do manage to save the innocents of the city, though Quicksilver dies in the process. Ultimately, the Avengers are forced to destroy the entire city to prevent Ultron's plan. Ultron's body is destroyed by the Vision. After the battle, many of the Avengers go their separate ways, leaving just Cap and Black Widow. Cap gives a pep talk to his new Avengers team, which includes Scarlet Witch, War Machine, Vision, and Sam Wilson, who is now the Falcon. Cap and his Avengers team travel to Lagos, Nigeria, to stop Brock Rumlow, now a mercenary working under the name Crossbones, from selling a biological weapon. Rumlow says that Hydra has re-brainwashed Bucky. A month later, General Thunderbolt Ross reveals to the Avengers that the US is set to sign the Sokovia Accords. The agreement will regulate superhumans and put the Avengers under the supervision of the United Nations. Steve thinks it's a bad idea, but Tony Stark fully supports the regulations. Everyone takes sides.
If someone dies on your watch, you don't give up.
Who said we're giving up?
We are for not taking responsibility for our actions. This document just shifts the blame.
In the midst of the meeting, Steve gets a text informing him that Peggy has died. Steve goes to London for the funeral, where he once again encounters Sharon. Days later, in Vienna, where the Sokovia Accords are being signed, a car bomb set off by Baron Helmut Zemo, disguised as Bucky, explodes outside the center where the event is happening. The bombing kills 12 people, including King T'Chaka of Wakanda. Steve sees a news report that Bucky is the chief suspect in the bombing. Sharon tells Cap that Bucky is in Romania, so Steve goes there to find him. Bucky not only says he's not responsible for the bombing, but he also reveals he knows who Cap is, kinda.
You're Steve. I read about you in a museum.
Steve and Bucky are both attacked by soldiers, War Machine, and Black Panther, son of King T'Chaka. After a chase, Bucky, Steve, and Sam Wilson are apprehended. Steve and Sam are told they'll be let go if they sign on to the Sokovia Accords. They refuse. Meanwhile, Bucky is questioned by a psychoanalyst. That psychoanalyst is secretly Zemo, who activates Bucky's Winter Soldier programming with a series of code words. Bucky attempts to escape, but Steve, with his bare hands, holds back the Winter Soldier's helicopter. They interrogate Bucky, who is snapped out of his mind control. Bucky says he suspects Zemo will try to use Hydra's other Winter Soldiers to carry out his plans. With the help of Sharon and Sam, Steve recruits Scarlet Witch, Hawkeye, and Ant-Man to his side of the conflict with Iron Man. The two teams of heroes face off in a fight at an airport in Germany. Much to their surprise, Black Widow allows Steve and Bucky to escape the fight on a Quinjet. Steve and Bucky arrive at the Hydra facility in Siberia, where Zemo is hoping to enact his plans. Tony Stark arrives and calls for a brief truce while they all search for Zemo. They find the Winter Soldiers all dead. They were never Zemo's plan. Zemo is a Sokovian who blames the Avengers for the death of his family. His aim was to tear them apart. Zemo then plays a video of Bucky, while under Hydra control, killing Tony's parents on a mission. Tony demands to know if Steve knew Bucky had killed his parents. Steve reveals that he had known for a while. Iron Man attempts to kill Bucky. Cap does everything he can to stop them.
I could do this all day.
Cap uses his shield to shatter both Iron Man's helmet and arc reactor.
That shield doesn't belong to you. You don't deserve it. My father made that shield.
Acknowledging that Tony's right, Steve leaves his shield behind. He also renounces the title Captain America. Outside, Steve and Bucky find Black Panther, who apprehended Zemo and has been made aware of his impersonation of Bucky. Panther offers Bucky resources for deprogramming back in Wakanda. Cap mostly stays out of the spotlight over the next 2 years, though he does oversee a prison break of his friends at the raft and sends Tony a cell phone to call him. What brings him back to the fold is a call from Bruce Banner, who asks Steve for help in the ongoing fight against Thanos and his Black Order as Thanos collects all the Infinity Stones. Steve goes to Edinburgh to save the Vision and Scarlet Witch from Proxima Midnight. Steve returns to the Avengers compound, where General Ross orders his arrest, but War Machine disobeys the order. Banner suggests removing the Mind Stone from Vision. Steve says Wakanda is just the place to do that. There, after Steve once again reunites with Bucky, the Black Order attacks. Steve fights in a sweeping battle, where he meets a new friend.
I am Groot! I am Steve Rogers.
Thanos personally arrives and goes after Vision's Mind Stone. Steve tries to protect the android, but Thanos finally gets what he wants. With all the stones collected, Thanos snaps and wipes out half of all life in the universe, including Bucky and Falcon. Cap joins a group of surviving Avengers to go to Thanos' refuge planet and retrieve the Infinity Stones. They arrive only to find the stones destroyed. The snap cannot be reversed. Thor kills Thanos and they leave. 5 years pass. Steve begins leading a support group for survivors.
You gotta move on.
At Avengers HQ, Steve admits to Black Widow that he can't move on, despite telling everyone else to. Ant-Man arrives and reveals that he's been trapped in the quantum realm for 5 years, though it only felt like 5 hours. With that, they devise a plan to use quantum physics to go back in time and collect the 6 Infinity Stones in the past. Steve and Black Widow recruit Bruce Banner to the cause, but have some trouble with Tony Stark. Finally, Stark decides to join in the effort and returns Steve's shield to him. Steve, along with Banner, Stark, and Ant-Man, goes back to 2012 to the Battle of New York. Steve specifically retrieves Loki's scepter, fighting himself from the past in the process. Though Cap's mission is successful, the others fail to obtain the Tesseract, so they travel even further back to 1970 to get it from Camp Lehigh. While there, Steve encounters Peggy in her office. He sadly watches her go about her business and chooses not to speak to her. Tony retrieves the Tesseract, and they all return to the present. With the Infinity Stones once again gathered, the Avengers build a new gauntlet. Banner puts it on and snaps, hoping to undo the effects of Thanos' initial snap. Almost immediately, the Avengers compound is attacked by a time-traveling Thanos from 2014. This Thanos is looking to use the stones to destroy the universe and create a new one without Avengers. Cap, Thor, and Iron Man challenge the Mad Titan. At one point, Thanos disarms Thor, and Steve saves his friend by wielding Thor's hammer. After a lengthy fight, Steve finds himself facing down Thanos alone. Prepared to bravely fight to the bitter end, Cap prepares himself, but then he hears a familiar voice, Sam's.
On your left.
Just then, all the snapped-away heroes return. A reinvigorated Cap leads them into battle, finally getting to say his famous rallying cry from the comics.
Avengers!
Assemble.
Cap takes the fight right to Thanos, and the battle is ultimately won when Iron Man takes the gauntlet. He snaps Thanos and his entire army away, sacrificing himself in the process. Steve is one of the many heroes who attends his old friend and rival's funeral. To tie up the loose ends, Cap once again travels to the past to return the Infinity Stones, and Thor's hammer to the times they came from. But then, he doesn't come back. Sam and Bucky notice an elderly man sitting on a bench by a lake. They realize that it's Steve, who's remained in the past and lived out his life there. Steve passes on his shield to Sam, though Steve chooses not to tell Sam about his wife.
No, I don't think I will.
A final shot shows Steve and Peggy finally having that dance Steve had to take a rain check on so many years before. The world doesn't know what happened to Steve, but he continues to be revered. People speculate wildly about what happened to him.
Some people, they think that he's in the secret base on the moon, looking down over us.
There's also a musical about his life, and numerous tributes to him. Of course, it seems like the world will soon learn what happened to Steve Rogers. His idyllic life in the past with his wife and baby is getting upended in Avengers Doomsday.